Dear viewers, we welcome you to the Rays of Hope this week, and we are very happy that you have joined us. Over the past few weeks, we have been thinking about the larger area of healing and wellness, and we have discovered that our wellness has many aspects to it, and that is why we have covered such topics like trauma healing, emotional well-being, mediation, to help us solve our conflicts so that we can be well again. And today, we have a very, very interesting topic also touching on the area of wellness, and that is contentment and integrity as a cure for corruption. And we want to engage, and as usual, we want to inspire resilience, courage, and more importantly, hope, because there is hope, because our hope is anchored on none other than our Lord Jesus Christ. And so, karibu sana our viewers. Remember, you can follow this program on our social media platforms, that is CAC TV Kenya on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome, and let us be blessed together. I have been joined in studio today by one leader in this country that we know very well, and I will have him introduce himself. Then we go to the other leader who is joining us live, and we get to hear who they are and what they do. Karibu sana. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Reverend Stephen Mairori. I'm a senior minister at AIC Milimani, but also the executive director of ICM Kenya. We bring a Global Leadership Summit to walk through the Bible, purpose-driven life, and other causes that help build individuals, but also the church. So it's a joy to be with you today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mairori. It's such an honor and a privilege to be with you here. And indeed, you have really contributed as an organization in equipping the church.
Thank you.
And we like connecting with such institutions that are out there to help us grow.
It's a joy to be here.
Thank you very much. Also joining us this hour is Mr. John Ng'ang'a. Let him introduce himself, telling us what he does. Karibu.
Yes, my name is John Ng'ang'a. Jesus Christ is my personal savior, and he has been for the last more than 50 years. And what I do is called management consultancy. I advise people on how to run decisions so that they can fulfill their full potential, and how to do so ethically, so that we fight the animal called corruption in our country. I'm the chairman of an organization called EONET, that is Ethical Leadership Network, where we try to influence all leaders in this country to see the value of integrity in their leadership. Thank you.
And indeed, that is the influence we want to see through all that we are doing, because we must fight, and this animal, as you call it, must really fall. And to start us off, allow me to read words that are in 1 Timothy 6, verse 6 to 11. And this is what the Bible says. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. People who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. We want to start with you, Mr. Ng'ang'a. Please, these words, very powerful, very deep words. How do we start understanding this challenge in 1 Timothy in the face of the discussion that we're having today on contentment, integrity, and indeed the fight against the vice that is corruption? Mr. Ng'ang'a.
Paul wants Timothy to understand that a man of God must have two things going together. He must have contentment And in order to get contentment, he must have integrity, because this contentment is great gain. So there are 3 points I understand Paul to be pushing. That if you're a man of God, you do not have permission to ever lack integrity. And what is integrity? It's wholeness, wellness. You know, when you say you are whole, it means you are complete. That's when you say a man, this is a man of integrity, we mean this man is whole. Now, but in addition to that, we are saying, for you to actually be a man of contentment, it will mean that at any stage in life, you are happy with where God has placed you. That does not mean you don't want more. But for what you have currently, you are happy to have it. You are contented. And that's what Timothy is being told. Please learn integrity, learn contentment. There will be great gain in your life.
Mm-hmm. Wow, thank you very much, Mr. Ng'ang'a. Dr. Mairori,
Yes.
I can't breathe.
Yes.
Really, corruption does not give us a chance to breathe.
Yes.
And I think at this point in time, as Kenyans, we are feeling like we are not breathing. So how do we begin to understand this verse in that context?
You know, Lucy, the question is, how much is enough? Mm-hmm. And when you look at that critically, you know, you only need one bed to sleep, mm-hmm. really at night. Mm-hmm.
Not
when,
true.
When I sit here,
yeah, it's one seat.
It's one seat.
Mm-hmm.
During this corona time, those people that had houses in London mm-hmm. or Mombasa, mm-hmm. there are no flights. Mm-hmm. You only had that one house. Mm-hmm. And that's why you said, I think the challenge from this verse is think deep. Mm-hmm. From God's perspective, he says the most important thing is godliness and contentment. Mm-hmm. Says these other things we do need, but really let them not push us mm-hmm. as though they are the mm-hmm. things we need in life. Mm-hmm. Because he says, if for those that really think that wealth is the answer, and so they pursue money, the love of money, mm-hmm. and it says they end up in ruin mm-hmm. in trying to get it. And we've seen that in this country. And that's really, you see just some few people, mm-hmm. well connected, they have all these things. Mm-hmm. They're trying to take everything from everybody, mm-hmm. thinking that when I get those, it will fill a certain hole. Mm-hmm. But the Bible here is reminding us what will fill that hole mm-hmm. is actually godliness. That is what you need. These other things just help us in life. And I've been sharing with friends, telling them many times, what God intended for life for us is not what we are chasing. He intended for us to fellowship with him, to know him deeper, and that mm-hmm. is really pursuing godliness. Mm-hmm. To have communion with him, to have communion with others, loving God, loving neighbor, mm-hmm. Sharing what we have together. Mm-hmm. These other things are there for us just to help us in life, to serve God. Mm-hmm. But this verse is telling us we've missed it. Mm-hmm. If we go the other way and think there's the answer there, we'll end up hurting each other, we'll mm-hmm. end up hurting ourselves, mm-hmm. and we'll destroy ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's a very good question, particularly for us here in Kenya, and particularly even for us that love the Lord, so that our focus is right. Mm-hmm. So that our focus is right. Mm-hmm. When we focus on the important things which God wants for us, everybody benefits. Mm-hmm. Because really, if we focus on, we are contented in life, and you know, I want you to succeed, you want me to succeed, mm-hmm. I wish everybody well, and we are following the Lord's instructions, this world will be a better place for all of us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Otherwise, if we don't do that and allow greed to rule, yeah. that's when we say we can't breathe, because yeah. everybody, yeah. you know, those mm-hmm. that have probably mm-hmm. the power yeah. or the things try to squeeze others mm-hmm. so that they can get, and greed comes in, yeah. and you know, that destroys all of us.
So what is stopping us from breathing is actually greed.
Yes. And
I want us to invite another actually contributor in this discussion today, and that is none other than Mr. Raja Singh, coming to us live or on video, and he has something to say about this area of integrity and actually the fight against corruption. Let's have a look.
Raja Singh is a chartered accountant. He is the senior partner of the firm R.K. Khanna and Associates, having their head office in the city of Mumbai, India. The firm, while rendering services in the fields of auditing, direct and indirect taxation, corporate affairs, foreign collaboration or foreign issues, management aspects and other finance-related matters, takes special efforts in encouraging and guiding their clients in running their businesses and related matters in compliance with legal and other requirements. The firm has earned a name for integrity in profession and excellence in service.
Is there no cure for corruption? Very interesting question, isn't it? But for me, 40 years back, as a young man, in my profession as a chartered accountant in the early age, this was not an interesting question, but a desperate cry, is there no cure for corruption? As a person committed to follow the teachings of Jesus Christ, and also as a matter of self-respect, I was not willing to take part in any of those corrupt means, but at the same time, as a chartered accountant, I was dealing with tax matters and I was dealing almost on regular basis with a government department which is said to be one of the most corrupt departments in India. And almost everyone concerned told me it is impossible for you to be in practice as a chartered accountant without taking part in some of these corrupt means if you really want to make money and be successful. You know, as we travel now today, I find this is a question being asked everywhere. Is there no cure for corruption? And we heard that yesterday, isn't it? If I were to ask how many of you serve in countries where there is corruption and the corruption has reached a crisis proportion, I'm sure almost all the hands will go up. We seem to live at a time when the corruption is so rampant that one thinks that this is a natural way of living. And no matter where you go, people talk about the leadership crisis and they refer to flagrant corruption there. However, friends, I want to tell you, I have come to believe that the cure for corruption lies in each leader leading a life of integrity in his own sphere of influence. What I'm going to do is to share with you 7 of the valuable lessons I have learned in the 40 years of my journey as a chartered accountant practicing in India. I'm going to share that with you today, which have led me to this conclusion that the cure for corruption lies in each leader leading a life of integrity in his own sphere of influence. Let me share those 7 valuable lessons which I have learned. One of those days in the early years of my practice, I was sitting in my office and I was preparing for a case which I have to argue in the next 2 days. That was a very difficult case, very complicated matter. And as I was preparing, walks in a friend of mine who is also a chartered accountant in practice, and seeing me a little tense, he asked me what the matter is, and I explained to him. And when I explained, he looked at it and said, "That is indeed a case difficult to win." And then he said, "All right, don't worry. I know the people concerned. I can manage it for a very reasonable sum." You know, I was a person, young man, trying to prove myself in this, and for me, it was a real temptation, isn't it? Well, after a little thought, I declined the offer. But before leaving the office, he looked into my eyes and said, Raja, you are a fool. If you need to succeed in this profession, you should be ready to take part in some of these means. Don't stick to your so-called principles. You will regret. I left my office on that day with a very heavy heart. Next day, I came back, I opened the files, and I started looking into the case, and I was developing the case from different angles of argument. As I was studying, suddenly a thought, a new line of argument came to my mind. I developed that case on that basis. Then I went to and appeared before that commissioner who was said to be corrupt and who will not pass an order in your favor unless you do that. And I argued the case, and you know what happened? I won that case on that day based on the new line of argument which I have developed. I learned my very important lesson on that day. The challenge which arises while leading with integrity sharpens your mind and produces excellence in you. Can you imagine what would have happened if I have succumbed to that temptation on that day? I would have never developed that brilliant argument. Yes, it is true. The challenge which arises will sharpen your mind and develop excellence in you. As the years went by, I seemed to be doing well, even with integrity. You know, I realized once your reputation as a person of integrity is established, the temptation and the pressures on you to follow illegal means reduces substantially.
And so, Mr. Ng'ang'a, from what we have watched and in the context of our discussion today, I want to raise one question. And I think that's a question also Mr. Raja is also trying to address. And that is the question of leading a life of integrity irrespective of the outcome. Is it possible, Mr. Ng'ang'a, to lead a life of integrity irrespective of the outcome, and what does it take for one to do this?
In trying to answer that question, I have written a book. I don't know if it can be seen. I've written a book on integrity, hoping that as people read, they'll get the answer. Is it possible to live an incorruptible life? I've also written another book called The Secret of Contentment. The two books are trying to answer that question. Is it possible to live a corrupt-free life? And the answer is yes. Not only is the answer yes, it's wise to actually do so. Because if you live a life of corruption, let me give you 3 signs that you know you are living a life of corruption. Number one, whenever you hear that there are some investigations, you can't sleep at night. You end up with sleepless nights because of guilt. That is lack of awareness. When you suffer from that kind of worry and guilt, you end up with stomachers. You end up going to hospital, and it all came from the fear. This time they might catch me, and obviously they go around, they don't catch you. You feel what? At least I went through. But I want to tell you, even when you are a retired man like John Ng'ang'a, you keep wondering, might they ever discover that file? So it means you will never enjoy your retirement. You have condemned, corruption condemns you to a life of lack of joy and lack of peace and lack of health. So the contentment we are talking about is for your own good. Unfortunately, I've also got to agree as what I've written in my book on contentment. I called it the secret of contentment. Why is it a secret? Because it's so foolish not to have contentment. Why should somebody do it? And yet the majority of the people we see around do not live a life of contentment. Why? Because it's a secret. Not everybody has it. Paul actually called it that in Philippians chapter 4. He says, I have learned when I have plenty to be contented. And I have learned when I don't have enough to still be contented in every situation, to be contented. And he called it a secret, because many of us imagine that when you get more, you'll be contented. But the moment you want to get more, we get what we call a rat race. What's a rat race? A rat race is you are always trying to see whether you are doing better than your classmates. You are always trying to do better than your siblings. You are always trying to do better than your classmen. And you keep thinking that they are catching up. So even when you are ahead, you are worried that the gap is closing. So you run even faster. The moment you are in a rat race, you will never win. Because after all, it's called a rat race. Only a rat can win. There's no human being who will ever win it. So it's important to understand that to condemn yourself to that is to end up in trouble. But the secret is to learn, how can I be happy with what I have and still work to get more? That's what we call the secret of contentment. Mm-hmm. The ability to enjoy what you have. You are in a bed-sitter, but one day you'll be a 3-bedroom house. Mm-hmm. But like Reverend Marori says, the bed-sitter has one bed, and that's all you need. You're not even married. Yes. Why do you want 3 bedrooms? Yes. Now, enjoy the bed-sitter, and you're enjoying the bed-sitter will not stop you getting 3 bedrooms. So you have enjoyed the end of the journey, but you also have enjoyed the process of the journey, because you have learned at every stage to be contented. There's a story told of a guy who was going to Mombasa, and he entered one coach, and because he was so curious, he decided to go from coach to coach to coach. By the time he reached Mombasa, he had not been able to go back to his seat. So he ended up having a very tiresome journey, never enjoying his coach. Secret to contentment is the ability to enjoy one coach at a time, and that does not stop you going to other coaches slowly at their own time. So that basically, that's what we are here talking about when we talk about that there is a secret of contentment, and you can actually live you can live a life of integrity when you learn to be contented at every stage.
Wow. I mean, that's deep, Dr. Mairori. Being able to enjoy the process.
Yeah, right.
And the outcome.
Yeah, right.
How nice. Yeah, that would be.
It is. And let me go back to what Raja shares. I think one of the things that you have to really determine is what values are you living out? Who are you really? Particularly as we talk to those who are Christians, but also those who may not be. You have a value system that you are going to live your life.
True. And
the challenge with corruption and all this is sometimes even peer pressure. You have your personal problems, but as John says, you are having your friends, they are doing this and you think they are succeeding, they are doing this and you think they are succeeding. And so you try to copy and follow just because of that pressure to get things quickly. I have a friend who, again, worked in this, top in this government. He tells me after he retired, he sleeps in his house. Even if a police Land Rover comes, he knows they're his guest. He doesn't worry at all.
How nice.
Yeah.
To retire
that because he just knows. But I had another friend, still, somebody I met, and he was saying, when they were doing this, and he was saying, pray for us. This is. So I was telling him, what is the real issue? He couldn't say we've done something wrong, but you'd see somebody is really panicking over something, and that's the difference.
Yeah.
If you have a value system and you say this is what my life is going to be about, and so I will not involve myself in these vices. I'll involve myself in what I'm able to do that is right before God and right in my country. You live a life that is well. You will have wellness, and you may not have everything that you want, but the Bible promises that God will meet all your needs as you work hard, as you do what you need, and you'll be okay. So, like Raja says in one of his, he was offered this deal. but he ended up rejecting, and everybody thought he was a fool. But for him, he knew what it was. But he got paid. The Lord repaid him later, and I think that is what we do need in this nation.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're bringing in an important aspect of differentiating between wants.
Yes.
And needs. And the Lord has promised that He will meet us even at the very point of our needs.
Yeah, right.
He's a good shepherd.
Yes.
He has our best interest in His heart.
Yeah, right.
And dear viewer, this is getting really interesting, and we will take a short break. We will be right back to continue with this interesting conversation.
Imagine of a world where you are fully informed on matters crime and criminal justice system and procedures.
Realizing a crime-free society is possible, but first, creating capacity to combat crime is key.
Every minute, crimes are committed worldwide, causing immense losses.
Professional Criminologists Association of Kenya and CAC TV takes the lead in building a crime-free society through credible information.
It is you and I to make this happen.
As PSAC Youth and Voice, we are ready to make this happen with your support.
With a team of experts in criminal justice system and investigative journalists, Crime Must Fall Show is now bigger and better. Besides talk shows, well-detailed investigative features on crime matters is our focus for the society. Only on CAC TV. PCAK, Crime Must Fall.
Kwenye Kazi na Mali tunakuangazia, tunakuhamasisha, kukuhimiza na kukuelimisha kuhusu kazi, shughuli na mbinu za wachapakazi mbalimbali kuchuma riziki.
Karibu sana katika kipindi chetu siku ya Jumamosi leo.
Wengine walikuwa na mwanzo mgumu.
Nilipata loan kutoka kwa nyanya yangu.
Wengine wana uwezo maalum na wanafanya mambo maalum.
Nilizaliwa hivi.
La mno, wote ni wachapakazi halali wanaojenga uchumi wa taifa. Ungana naye
Pishi mpakuzi kutoka kwangu Pishi Mpakuzi
Vincent Kirosi kila Jumanne saa 1:30 jioni, anapoweka bayana kuwa mtafutaji hachoki, akichoka kesha pata. Ni hapa CAC TV.
Dear viewers, we welcome you back to this show, and we are glad that you are still with us, and we are really learning. From the first half, we learned a number of very, very valuable lessons. And we want to begin with Mr. Raja, continuing from where he left. So watch this.
People, irrespective of their faith, choose to be honest if only there is a leader who can effectively help them towards that. Did you get that? Yeah, that's right. Now, this lesson enthused me to assist others to be honest. Consequently, proper tax planning became a very effective part of my practice in my office, whereby we were helping people to avoid taxes, but not to evade taxes. In other words, we were following the more difficult means of reducing the tax by legal means than the easy route of evading the tax by illegal means. You know, once things are done in a proper manner at the initial stage, I realized then it becomes easier not to get involved in illegal means subsequently. The influence of a leader of integrity will be enhanced when he is competent and hardworking. You get that? Yes, that's right. It will be enhanced when you are competent and hardworking. My next lesson is The life of a leader with integrity, coupled with commitment and persistence, could be a rewarding experience. Yeah, that's right. Well, at this stage, I must answer the question, if the life of a leader with integrity, coupled with commitment and persistence, always a rewarding experience, always is it a story to live happily thereafter? Well, I must say honestly, it may not be. Leading a life of integrity ought to be irrespective of the possible outcome. That's really leading the life. I must share with you the story of my son who was doing his flying lessons in Canada. He completed his flying lessons and came back to India, and he had to get his license issued from India, and he had to approach the Directorate General of Civil Aviation in the capital of our country, and his application was made, but it was found that he will not get his license unless he was ready to pay some bribe, of course a very meager sum, to a lower level staff there. We tried his best, and as the days was approaching, on the last day finally, he rushed to that office. He tried to persuade them, but they won't yield at all. And that was a stage, and he had to get that issued on that day, because if he does not get that issued on that day, then some of the earlier flying hours will lapse, and he will have to go back for a training involving more money and more time. He had to do that. With 30 minutes to go, he calls me up back in Bombay, and he tells, "Daddy, it appears that unless I pay that small amount of bribe, I am not going to get this license." Before I could give my reaction, my son said, "Daddy, I will not pay 1 rupee bribe, even if it costs my career as a pilot." I put the phone down with a heavy heart, with a prayer in my heart, and the tears welling in my eyes. 35 minutes later, I get the telephone call to say, "Daddy, without paying any amount, I got the license." In the next few months, my son was commissioned as a pilot with the airlines called Indigo, and I was sitting in that in the commissioning meeting. We call it commissioning ceremony. And as his name was called, the MC announced, we asked Mr. Naveen Raja Singh what is his favorite verse, favorite quote or poem. And he quoted a verse from the Bible, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." You know what? That's exactly what he is doing today. And the lesson that I have learned is, a leader with integrity will leave behind the greatest legacy, which is integrity and excellence in his children. A leader leading a life of integrity needs to develop that commitment of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to assert with all the emphasis at my command, based on my own experience spanning over 4 decades in India, that it is possible to run one's business or profession with integrity and be successful. Let me say that with all that emphasis. Having said this, I must share with you 2 things which I consider as a secret for achieving this. Firstly, leading a life of integrity needs the divine favor. I pray every day that God will give me the strength to live a life of honesty in all the fields. David's comment in this connection I keep reminding myself of what David said. He said, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust also in him, and he will bring it to pass." That's what I remind myself. Secondly, living a life of integrity needs the support of your wife. Yeah. This is too big an issue to handle it alone. You know, I have my wife who supports me through her counsel, encouragement, and prayers. I know even as I am talking to you, he is on her knees praying for me. That's what she is. You know, let me suggest to you, in case you are not married, it is important that you find a trustworthy friend to have him as an accountability partner with you. This is too important a matter to be handled alone. Let me repeat what I said at the very beginning of my presentation. The cure for corruption lies in each leader leading a life of integrity in his own sphere of influence. So, my friend, may I tweak the title of my presentation a little and put this question to you. Is there a cure for corruption? Yes, if you are ready to take the first step yourself in this direction today.
And so we, Dr. Mairori and Mr. Ng'ang'a, we've heard what Mr. Raja is bringing also to the fore. And so the question I have for us, starting with Mr. Ng'ang'a, is it possible to be an effective professional, to be an effective pastor, to be an effective politician, to be an effective farmer, to be an effective business person with integrity and still be successful? Because I think that's the fear that many people have, that if they walk this path of integrity, they'll end up poor and very hopeless. Is it possible, Mr. Ng'ang'a?
The answer is yes. Like I said, I am leading an organization called EONET, Ethical Leadership Network. One of the exercises we do is to go around the country assessing various businesses that are willing to be assessed on their integrity. And it's a very detailed exercise because we ask you to open up your books, give us a list of all your suppliers, all your friends, all your staff, senior and junior, your board members. We assess our knowledge which can give us more than that people. Then we sign a confidentiality agreement with you that whatever your clients tell us, we will never reveal to you. And we ask them to assess you on your level of integrity. And we are still doing it, but we have about 20 different organizations in Kenya which have been assessed ethical. And for you to be assessed ethical, it means 80% of the list confidentially. It's not using a ethical, it is suppliers, your clients, your competitors, all agreeing this business is run ethically. Now, the reason we are doing that is to deal with the topic, with the issue that is in Kenya. In Kenya, you can never do ethical business. About Kenya? Oh, it's not possible. We are now telling you we have evidence of organizations in Kenya that are run ethically. And we are hoping that more and more organizations will open up themselves for assessment so that we kill that idea that it's not possible in Kenya to do ethical business. If you are unethical and you are corrupt, please don't group all of us there. It is you that is corrupt. Do not assume everybody else is corrupt. This thing must be fought. Because the moment you hear somebody say that Kenya, it is impossible to do business in Kenya ethically, is a way of him admitting that he's not ethical himself, number one. Number two, is a way of welcoming the young people that are joining business to tell them, don't even try. We are corrupt, you are corrupt. If you are corrupt, you are like anybody else. So they are recruiting new corrupt people. Thirdly, when you say that it's not possible to do it, it's a way of trying to handle your guilt. It's to blame. What could I have done? It's Kenya that is bad. Some years gone by, there was a conference at KIA, it has changed its name since then, which was called the Kenya we want. And I still remember telling somebody, they are discussing the wrong topic. Our problem is not in Kenya, it's not that we don't the Kenya we want. Our problem is that we don't have the Kenyans that can help us to get the Kenya we want. And here I am telling you clearly, they are. What you need, however, taught by people who do studies, that you need only 20% of a country to be ethical, for the whole country to become ethical. The influence of 20 will affect everybody. So it's very important to understand it's possible, shown by evidence. Number two, it is possible because I'm a business person. I work for petroleum oil company, the biggest petroleum oil company then in Kenya for about 30 years. And say for more than 10 years. And I have never at any time needed to be corrupt to get anything done. I may have had challenges that I have to admit. But since I know that bribing anybody is not an option, there's an alternative option, Reverend, which is what you're asking me. What's the alternative? I give the matter in prayer to God. And I've seen him do one miracle after another. I still remember a time we were buying a piece of land with my wife, and the guys in the land office wanted to be bribed. And of course we said we can't do that. And they said there's no way your title will ever come out without it. One day they saw themselves giving me the title and said, Aya, you mean this guy's getting a title? How? It's like Fugamacho. You know, it's like something has happened to them. I told them, yes, that's what God does. Things that you don't understand. In other words, God is able to make people that are committed to demanding, before they realize, they discover they have already given you what they were supposed to retain, so that you bribe them. I want to tell you, number one, prayer is an instrument that helps you. Number two, the decision that we have been talking about earlier, contentment, learning to enjoy and be happy with what you have just now, means that although you want more, you don't want it desperately enough to be corrupt, because you're already happy where you are. So although you're asking for more, you are happy to have it if God allows. If He doesn't allow it, you are still okay. So you are happy. That lack of being pushed, that lack of joining the rat race, ensures that even when they say no, you tell me it's okay, just stay with it. I will not bribe you at any time in life. And I've discovered, the moment people discover you never bribe them, they make your work very easy, because they don't want to waste their time. They want now, the other guys who want to bribe, they are the ones who will pay for what you did not pay. But for you, while they know you are no longer corrupt, they no longer try to get it from you, because you are wasting their time. But to get that credibility, where they no longer ask you for bribes, of course you will suffer. But you are gaining credibility in the process of suffering. The moment they know you are, they'll never bother you. I was in charge of distribution for the oil company, and I was dealing with the contractors. Initially, they try their best, but after some time, they know with Nganga, never try. He'll never give in. So that issue of corruption just disappears on its own, the moment. So the first thing is, the people exist. Number two is prayer. Number three is contentment. The idea of being contented enough. In fact, I have argued in my book on corruption, the one on integrity. I have argued contentment is the antidote for corruption. Learning to enjoy contentment along the way will ensure you never have this force that makes you feel like I have no alternative. I must be corrupt. Oh, my goods are waiting in Mombasa. If they cannot be cleared, let them throw them to the sea. Don't be corrupt, and still enjoy the fact that you are happy where you are. Thank you very much.
Wow, Mr. Nganga gave a very emphatic yes. It is possible. Do you agree with him?
I do, for sure. I do agree with Mr. Nganga, and I want again to go back to where we began, Lucy. You know, we read in Timothy 6:6-11. And so it says contentment and godliness created. But it reminded us, we actually came with nothing, and we are going with nothing. So I think we need to take time to reflect sometimes. What is it that we are trying to chase in here? Because we came with nothing, and we will leave nothing. And we also need to ask another question. What would we want to leave to our children or that generation? Some of us think we want to leave them with wealth. That's okay, that's fine, but that's not probably the most important thing that you would need. Because, you know, when you remember when some young people are asked, would you also want to can you know, be corrupt so that you get, because of what they see, they think it's the right thing. But I think as Kenyans, we need to be asking ourselves, is this a society we want to build? No. If we went through our communities earlier, you couldn't steal from your own people. No. You couldn't do this because you are really, like in Kenya here, if you are stealing from government, you are stealing from your mother, you are stealing from your sister. True. You are doing that. Do you want to be called a thief? No. No. You don't. So I think we just need to ask ourselves deeper questions. Is this thing right for us? And I do know some people, as Nganga said, I know a friend who said, I asked myself those questions. He's having a very big business. He said there was a time he was having a very big offer, and the competitors were being, you know, rewarded because they were, but he said no. He said after a while, he you know, that he missed out in that, but God rewarded him much more later. And he said, I've just learned to live out my values, and he's done very well. So it is very, very possible. It is doable. And I want to end, it may not be just slightly on this, but you have William Wilberforce going against the grain in London, where everybody thought slavery was okay. And he realized, he said, no, this is evil. How can we benefit from the labor of the slaves and all that? And he fought, he felt alone most of the time, but because of that effort, you know, he began, a movement was begun that, you know, slavery was abolished. True. I want just to encourage all of us that if that, as John really put it, there are several companies that they have already seen, they are doing. I think if we can all do that part and be persistent, we will win this. We will win this. Wow. And it is very doable. But the biggest benefit that you get, in my view, is if really we are here for a short time, our Creator has given us this how to live life. Do you want to face him when you live here and say, oh, I missed it? No, you want to say, God, you gave me this gift of life. I lived my life to the best of my knowledge and integrity. I served my fellow human beings. I loved you. And you have eternity. You know, think eternity. You want to say, I want to get there and rejoice even much more. Let's not think short term. Wow. I think that is very, very important.
Let us not just think short term. There are benefits. And as we are hearing here, is that there are factual examples that it is possible to live a corruption-free life. It is possible.
To live in wellness.
To live in wellness, as we say it. Allow me to read some words in Proverbs 30 as we begin to wind up. Proverbs 30 from verse 7. 2 things I ask of you, O Lord. Do not refuse me before I die. Keep falsehood and lies far from me. Give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who is the Lord? Or I may become poor and steal, and so dishonor the name of my God. Mr. Nganga, I would kindly ask you to give a parting shot to our viewers, because we need to bring this to an end. And with those words that I've read, and I heard you say that we need 20% of the people to believe in these values, Dr. Mairori, and there will be a change. Please just challenge us, because we are 80% Christians in this country. So we are more than we need, actually, to fight and to win this battle. Your parting shot in a minute.
I'll say it in 3 sentences. Number 1, that if you are corrupt, do not think others are corrupt. Number two, that even the most corrupt person does not like corrupt people. You can see a man who has started businesses through corruption. He stole from the government, started his own business. Even that one is looking to employ people of integrity. Nobody wants to employ somebody without integrity. So young people, if you have integrity, you have something not many people have, you are assured of a job. When others are getting fired, you will be the last to be fired. One of the things you need to have, not written in a CV, but lived in your life, is a life of integrity, and rest assured, not only will you get jobs, to retain jobs. And finally, to understand that we live a life of integrity, we therefore become valuable to the people we are living with, but you also bring glory to God. May this be your to honor God and be a valuable person in society. Thank you very much.
Wow. Your take on this, Dr. Mairori, and your parting shot, as you also tell us what programs are coming up in the GLS, because that's one place where personally I've grown, and many of my colleagues, we are becoming better leaders, even in the area of integrity because of this forum. So tell us whether something is coming up.
Thank you, thank you, Lucy, and thank you again, John, for bringing it up. I think John is one of our local speakers for the Global Leadership Summit, and GLS Global Leadership Summit brings to us world-class leaders, people with proven record of just not knowledge, but really saying what we are talking about we have done, and that's integrity. And I want to encourage all of us that this is very doable. One of the things you could do for yourself is enrich yourself in this area of leadership. I think when you hear other leaders, sometimes we think, oh, this is not possible because you see this person and the people that you see are probably only corrupt. But when you get to the Global Leadership Summit, you get stories of men and women who actually have done good business, have never been corrupt, and you can find better ways of doing your businesses. You get motivated, and you get ways that you can do this. So, to answer your question, Lucy, yes, even during this time, GLS is on. On the 20th and 21st of November, we will be bringing the Global Leadership Summit to us. We have very great faculty, and you don't want to miss. We will actually come online this time, and we'll be sharing the details of that. Sure. But it will be on the 20th and the 21st, and we will be actually, I think we'll share with you some of the brochures, and you can be able to share with the audiences. But I know through your organization, you will be doing a Global Leadership Summit in various areas, and many other places in Kenya will also be doing the same. But I want to encourage our viewers that please invest in leadership. It makes a huge difference. In leadership, we are dealing with the issues of skills, we are dealing with the issues of character, we are dealing with the issues of strategic formation, so that you have vision, you can plan. So it's very, very vital for us as an organization. But thank you for this. We can win the war on corruption.
Amen.
And I know integrity is an integral part.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, I really must thank you, our panelists, for making time to be with us. We can never really exhaust this topic in this short time that we have, but we are glad that the conversation is going to continue. And we have picked very, very important and valuable areas that will help us. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Dr. Mairori. Thank you, Mr. John Ng'ang'a. And thank you, by extension, to Mr. Raja for allowing yourselves to be used of the Lord. Dear viewers, we thank you for joining us, and let's continue the conversation on our social media platforms. Let's implement the lessons that we have learned, and indeed, it is possible to win this war, because contentment and integrity provides us with a cure for corruption. It is doable. Be counted among the 20% that will bring transformation in our society. Until next time, Thank you and God bless you.